Good morning, good noon, and good evening to all of you. Whenever you're watching this video, today we have to start with Sources of Law Part 2. If you have not watched Lecture 1 or Part 1, I will recommend you to go and watch that lecture. Link will be available in the description box of the video. So without any further delay, let's get started with our lecture. We have to start our discussion with Supreme Court of India. But before starting this discussion, we need to revise the concept named Doctrine of Stare Decisis. So what did this doctrine really said? That cases alike should be dealt alike. So let's again understand this concept with a very good example. That is, let's say that the chain snatchers are increasing day by day. They come and snatch the chain of the woman in the bike, and sometimes they are caught. Now the problem, let's suppose that the problem was increasing day by day and Supreme Court recognizes it, and the Supreme Court does what? Let's see that the Supreme Court passes a new judgment, judicial in a case where all the chain snatchers will be punished with 10 years of imprisonment. So that is nothing but a judicial precedent. What is judicial precedent here? Means whenever a new rule or principle is passed by a court, so that Supreme Court passes a judgment, whenever a case of chain snatching will come, he or she will be punished with 10 years of imprisonment by the court of law. So now here comes our concept. So now due to the doctrine of stare decisis, all high and lower courts will have to bind by the decision of Supreme Court and apply same judgment as passed by the Supreme Court. Means whenever a case of chain snatching which is similar to this nature, the same judgment of Supreme Court will be applied by all the high court and lower courts of India. Now if I try to summarize this concept, the decision of Supreme Court are binding on High Court as well as lower court, and the decision of High Court are only applicable to lower court. Now I ask you a question, can the decision of a High Court of Maharashtra is applicable on the High Court of Punjab? Absolutely not, but they can consider that judgment only. Okay, now I hope that you have understand the point. Now let's move on to another topic. Now you have a fire in your mind, who has given Supreme Court that power to pass judicial rule, to lay down new rule? Your answer is hidden in an article called Article 141. The Supreme Court is the highest court sorry, and its decisions are binding on all courts and other judicial tribunals of the country. Article 141 of the Constitution makes it clear that the law declared by the Supreme Court shall be binding on all courts. Means whenever a decision is passed or judgment is passed by Supreme Court, means if the same cases arise in High Court or lower court, then the same decision should be binding on all courts within the territory of India. The expression all courts used in Article 141 refers only to courts other than the Supreme Court. Means let's suppose that the Supreme Court gave a judgment related to some kind of scam. Now the Supreme Court is not bound by the on judgment whenever the same case alike. Means what will happen actually, like let's say that there is a Supreme Court, it passed the judgment, it's passed judgment in a case case 1 C1, let's suppose that, and now the another case similar nature came, but in this case in C2 the Supreme Court can really disregard that previous decision, if it wants. Means whatever is written here, the Supreme Court is not bound by its own decision, it is not needed to follow its own decision. That's what it is wanna say. Now I give you 1 minute time, read all the para. If you wanna note it down, just note it down and note it down quick and pause the video. Now I have assumed that you have paused the video. Now let's again continue our lecture. So if the earlier decision is found erroneous and is thus detrimental to the general welfare of the public, the Supreme Court will not hesitate in departing. So if a decision was passed by Supreme Court and it is found erroneous, then it thus detrimental to the general welfare of the public, Supreme Court will not hesitate. Means the Supreme Court will take exit from it, means will not either the case will reopen and another thing proceedings will happen. The Supreme Court is not bound by the decision of Privy Council or Federal Council. Now here is a question, what is a Privy Council and what is a Federal Council? Now you have to understand that before the establishments of the Supreme Court there were Privy Council or Federal Court, but now the Supreme Court, when Supreme Court was really, it was quite made that the Supreme Court will not be bound by the decision of Privy Council or Federal Court, because in the earlier time Privy Council, Federal Court were the highest court like Supreme Court. Now moving on to another topic, that is precedent, that we have again gonna revise in this part 2. In simple words, an official action or decision that has happened in the past and that is considered as now a rule to follow in the same situation. So what does it really want to say? That whenever something has happened in the past and the judgment was given in the past, then if the same situation arises, the same judgment will be given, in the future situation. That is it wanna say. Now let's say that there is a perfect couple, there are grandparents, there are children, all of them are doing well until and unless a guest named Coco came to their house. Now as soon as he came, the family had a rule to sleep by 10 p.m. But since whenever a guest like Coco came for the first time, so they changed it to 12 p.m. until he stayed, because they were having so much of fun. Now there are two things to focus on. There was the existing rule to sleep by 10 p.m. which was already in force in the family, but the rule to sleep by 12 p.m. was a future rule to be applied when the guest like Coco came. So why did I make you to understand this? Like there was an existing rule to sleep by 10 p.m. and there was a future rule to sleep by 12 p.m. which was to be applied whenever guests like Coco came. So let's understand this. We are going to understand that example in our precedents. Declaratory and original precedent. According to Salmond, a declaratory precedent which is merely in the application of an already existing rule of law, means the rule of family to sleep by 10 p.m. that is nothing but declaratory precedent. Already existing rule of law to sleep by 10 p.m. rules are already applied. An original precedent is one which creates and applies a new rule of law. In the case of declaratory precedent, the rule is applied which was already in force of 10 years because it is already in law. In the case of original, it is law for future because it is now applied. The rule to sleep by 12 years until and unless the guest came. A declaratory precedent is as good as source of law as an original. The legal authority of the both is exactly the same. Okay. Now moving on to other topic, that is persuasive precedent. What really it is? A persuasive precedent is one which the judges are not obliged to follow, but which they will take into consideration and to which they will attach great weight as it seems to them to deserve. So a persuasive precedent is what? A persuasive precedent is nothing but a judgment. What really I mean by judgment? Let's say that there is a judgment, okay, and there is another case. Now the case of these judges can consider these judgments. So that is nothing but persuasive precedent. I hope that you have got the point. That is nothing but persuasive precedent. Now let's continue to whatever we were reading. Okay. A persuasive precedent therefore is not a legal source of law but is regarded as historical source of law, means whenever we go to the history and see the judgments and we can consider them, that is nothing but persuasive precedent. Thus in India, the decision of one high court are only persuasive precedent on the high court. That's what I said in when I was telling the decision of the Supreme Court are binding on the high court, and the decision of Madhya Pradesh court cannot be binding on the decision of high court of Punjab. So that's what I wanna say here. Now moving on to another topic, that is absolutely authoritative precedent. What is that? An authoritative precedent means judgment is one which the judges must follow whether they approve of it or not, means it is compulsory. Its binding force is absolute and the judge's discretion is altogether excluded as he must follow it. Such a decision has a legal claim to implicit obedience even if the judge consider it wrong. Even if you consider it wrong, you have to follow it and give the same unit as it was given by the Supreme Court of India or High Court of India in case of a lower court. Absolutely authoritative precedent in India, every court in India is absolutely bound by the decision of court superior to itself. Nothing to make you understand, it's absolutely understand by in your own terms. Okay, the subordinate courts are bound to follow the decision of the High Court to apply which they are subordinate. Now in case of a high court, in the previous lecture I said that the high court has a smaller bench, high court has a division bench, and high court has a full bench. So the decision made by the division bench has to be followed by the smallest bench, means the one judge bench has to follow the decision passed by the division bench. That's what I want to make you understand. If you have not watched part 1, I recommend you to go and watch that part. Okay. Now let's talk about conditionally authoritative precedent. In the name itself it is that conditionally, either you wanna do it or not. A conditionally authoritative is one which ordinary binding on the court before it is stated and is liable to be disregarded in certain circumstances. The court is not to disregard a decision if it's wrong one contrary to law. In India, for instance, the decision of a single bench of the High Court is absolutely authoritative for as far as the subordinate judiciary is concerned. Okay, means either you can get it or not, means either you can consider it or may pass the another judgment, but it is only conditionally authoritative when seated before a division bench of the same high court. Means, for example, a small bench judge passed a judgment, and when the case again go to the division bench, the when similar case went to the division bench, the division bench judges can consider the decision of smaller bench. So that is nothing but conditionally authoritative precedent. Moving on to ratio dissenting, we have to start with a quote called Professor Goodhart says that the ratio is nothing more than the decision based on the material fact of the case. I know that you have not understand the sentence, so let's understand that with a very good example. Let's say that the cybercrime in India is increasing day by day. So whenever a cyber criminal is catched, he will be presented before the court. Now he will be presented, then facts of the case will be presented and evidences will be presented, and on the basis of it the judge will give a judgment. So that is nothing but ordinary procedure what really happens in a court. Now if I try to say that again, read the sentence, nothing more than the decision based on the material fact, means facts of the case will be presented, evidence will be presented, and on the basis of the judge will give the judgment. Simply means reason for decision. Whatever judgment the judge will give, he simply provides the reason for decision. That's what ratio dissenting is wanna say. Where an issue requires to be answered on principles, the principle which are deduced by way of abstraction of the material facts of the case, the immediate elements known as ratio dissenting. Whenever the case judgment is to be given on the facts or principle, the ratio dissenting will come to rescue. Okay. Now moving on to another topic, that is obiter dicta. The literal meaning of the expression is sad by the way, means that look, obiter dicta really meaning is that sad by the way means the judicial utterances which were not necessary for the decision making, but the judge said by the way, okay, in the course of delivering a judgment, okay, which taken by themselves were not strictly necessary for the decision of the particular issue raised. Means whatever said by the judges of those sentences were not necessary for the judgment. This statement does go beyond the requirement of the particular case and have the force of persuasive precedent only. The judges are not bound to follow them, although they can take advantage of them. This sometimes help the cause to reform law. So I know that you have not understand said by the way what is judicial utterances. So sir, can you give us the example of it? Yes, sure. Let's take the example. For example, in Nirbhaya case, the best thermometer in Nirbhaya case, in the Nirbhaya case, what really happened that in the judgment given by the Supreme Court of India, the best they made a quote, the best thermometer to progress or the best thermometer to the progress of a nation is its treatment of its women. In Nirbhaya case, they really gave a quote in the 140 page. If I really try to remember that, they gave this quote. Now if I ask you a question, was it necessary to quote that? Was it necessary to say? Absolutely, but it was only obiter dicta. Means those sentences which were actually not important, those sentences and utterances which are not important for the judgment, they are nothing but obiter dicta. I hope you got the point. If have not, just comment down below. Now if I again tries to summarize what really is obiter dicta. So obiter dicta is nothing but sad by the way, okay, which are not necessary for judgment. Like in Nirbhaya case, the best thermometer to the progress of a nation is its treatment of women. The quote was not necessary to quote, but it was only obiter dicta sad by the way. It was nothing but judicial utterances sad by the way, which were not really important for the decision. So that is nothing but obiter dicta. I hope you got the point. Moving on, now let's talk about statutes or legislation. So what do I really mean by statutes or legislation? A statute or legislation is a written law passed by the legislature, means who makes the law. Legislature means who makes the law on the state or federal. Statutes set for general proposition of law that court apply to specific situation. It is sometimes called jus scriptum. Written law means written law is called jus scriptum, and unwritten law is called what? Comment down below. Salmon prefers to call it as enacted law. A statute or a statute is what is created by legislation. For example, acts of parliament or legislation. Legislation either supreme or subordinate. So what do I really mean by legislation will be supreme or subordinate? Let's understand. So the legislation can either be supreme or subordinate. What is supreme legislation? The legislation which directly derive power from the constitution, okay, and there will be subordinate legislation directly derive power from other than sovereign power. So the supreme legislation is nothing but derived power from the constitution, and subordinate legislation nothing but we derive power other than sovereign power. Is the example of the subordinate can include municipal parties, municipal corporations, and the we direct the powers that were directly means those authorities will directly derive power from the constitution are like central government, state government, president, governor. So they directly derive their power from constitution of India. And subordinate means they directly derive power from other than sovereign power, means they derive power from government. Okay, now moving on to another topic, that is again we are gonna read some more thing related to status or legislation. Legislative power have been given to the judiciary, means the power to make law are given to the judiciary. The superior courts are allowed to make rules for regulation. That's what I said in the case of Supreme Court even made the law for chain snatcher. The executive whose main function is to enforce the law. In some cases, in certain circumstances, they are given the power to make the law. Such subordinate legislation is known as executive or delegated legislation. Municipal bodies enjoy, that's what I said in the previous slide, enjoy by delegation from the legislature unlimited power of making rules or bylaws for the area under their jurisdiction. Moving on, let's talk about personal laws. In many cases, when courts are required to apply the personal law at point when any issue is not covered under any statutory law or custom. In case of Hindus, for instance, their personal law is to be found in the Shrutis, which include 4 Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajur, Samaveda, and Atharvaveda. The Smritis, which are recollection handed by the rishis or ancient teaching of the god. The commentary written by various ancient authors on this. These are the 3 main Smritis: the code of Manu, Yajna, Valkya, and Narada. Now take 2 minute time and read the personal law. If any confusion, just comment down below. I will reply you in almost 3 to 4 hours or even in 5 minutes. Now I have assumed that you have paused the video and read the complete paragraphs. Now we are going to continue. Hindus are governed by their personal laws as modified by the statute and custom. That's what we read in the previous slide. If I talk more about the personal law of Muhammad, is to be found in the Holy Quran. The action, precepts, and saying of the Prophet of the Muhammad, which though not written during his lifetimes, were preserved by tradition and handed by the authorities. The action, precept, and saying of the Prophet Muhammad, which though means the things which are not written, but during his lifetime were preserved by tradition and handed by authorized persons. These are known as hadiths, which were never really written, but they are handed down by an authorized person. Ijmas and concurrence of opinion of the companions of the Prophet and his disciples, means written by the followers. Qiyas or reasoning by analogy, these are analogical deduction derived from a comparison of the Quran, hadith, and when none of these apply to a particular case. Digest and commentaries of the most important and famous of them being the Hada. Okay, now that's it for today's, guys. I hope you found the video helpful. If you have found the video helpful, please give it a big thumbs up and make sure you like the video. Here you can find the previous lecture part 1, and here you can find the important tips for the CACET examination. So goodbye.